internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion. Those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book. And today we're going to talk about A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. And I feel like I'm going to get some of you very angry. So a while back I had mentioned I read A Monster Calls and I really did not enjoy it. I liked it well enough, but I didn't enjoy it. So for all of you unfamiliar with this story, it is about a young boy who is dealing with his mother being ill, and he ends up being visited by this monster kind of tree-like being who promises him and makes a deal with him that he will tell the boy 3 stories if the boy will tell him 1 in return. And so it's just him dealing with his mother's illness and then him talking to this monster and learning different lessons through this monster's story. Now, I found it a very moving and compassionate story. I thought the message that it was trying to tell was very good. However, I don't think Patrick Ness took it far enough. I don't think that he went far enough to make it look and make the reader actually feel empathy properly. Because the way that he said it, the way that he made some of the boy's actions come across would make you misunderstand. If you had not gone through certain of these things that this boy is going through, if you maybe haven't personally experienced or been really close to someone who's personally experienced these things, you might just feel pity for this boy. Oh no, his mom's ill, he's just going through some stuff, that's why he's acting this way. And I just felt so bad thinking that some readers who may have never experienced any of this before just be like, oh well, the kid had a bad time, that's why he's acting out, when really it's a lot deeper than that. His anger, his resentment towards things has a lot more to do with just his mother being ill. And I was so angry that Patrick Ness didn't delve in deeper to this boy's true thoughts, but just gave you a cursory glance. So I'll give you a few examples. Now, this video will work better for those who have already read this book so that they can understand why I had problems with it, because I will be going into some spoiler issues, trying to explain what I did like and what I didn't. So one of the things that I was really frustrated with is when the boy is said that he doesn't talk to his best friend anymore, this girl. He doesn't talk to her at all. He ignores her. He's just brushes her off. He doesn't want anything to do with her. And the reason why is because when his mother first came down with sickness and illness, he told her, right? And she ended up finding out through her mom or something, and she found out that his mother was really sick. And he was like, don't tell anyone. I don't want anyone to know my situation. I don't want to be treated differently. I don't want people being sad for me. Please don't tell anyone. And what did she go and do? She told the whole school. And now everyone at the school is just like, oh, poor kid, his mom's ill. You got to just deal with him. And started treating him really differently. And he got angry because no one was seeing him anymore. They were just seeing the poor boy who had a sick mother. And he was so mad that his friend could betray him. And I feel like the way that it was portrayed in the book, if you've had your friends betray you like that, if you've had something where people start treating you differently and start pitying you or start feeling sad for you and stop seeing you as a person but start seeing you as a victim of some sort of problem, you might not see why this boy was justified in being angry. You might just think, oh, he's just mad because his mom's ill, so he's lashing out at the most convenient person. But that's not really what's going on. The reason why he's angry is because his friend betrayed him, because she put him in a situation he didn't want to be put in. He knew what would happen if everyone found out, and he knew how he would be treated, and he does not like that. And it's her fault because she did not respect his wishes, because she decided she knew what was best for him. And really it wasn't, because all it did was isolate him. Not only from her because he's angry, but from everyone else, because all they see when they look at him as this kid with a sick mom. So that was one of the things. Another of the things that really made me angry where you just had to kind of know how this stuff works. You just kind of had to experience this stuff before, is the parent relationship between this boy and his dad. And I feel like a lot of people would think, oh, this kid's just mad because his dad left, because his dad got divorced, or because his dad's not there as often. But you see that a lot of his anger towards his dad is a lot deeper than that. And again, it's just cursory glance. You kind of have to pick it up. Like how the kid always mentions, Dad, why are you talking like an American? Dad, like, what are you talking about? We don't talk like that over here. And the dad will be like, oh, it's just something I learned from there. And the thing that, like, you have to see is his father came from England. Like, they all came in England, from England. The mom, the father, they met, they lived there, they had the kid before this divorce. It's only been a couple of years that he's been in America, maybe 5-10 years, right? Maybe 10 years at the most, but definitely less. It's been like maybe 5 years. 5 years that this guy has been in America. He found a new wife. He has a new child. Now, when he talks to the boy, he starts using American lingo, American words. He says words like an American. And I'm going to tell you right now that this man is purposely trying to sound more like an American. He's purposely giving up his British side to sound more like an American, because I have plenty of friends who have migrated to America, who have lived here a lot longer, and they still say words with an accent, a lowered accent, not as prominent. But like, I have a friend, she's lived here for like 20-30 years, and she still says stike, and she still calls the trunk of her car the boot, and she'll still use words like that. And all of her kids learned how to speak English from Americans. She's always been surrounded by Americans for at least for most of this time, yet she still has an accent. She still says her words like she was first taught with from England. So it's obvious that this man is purposely trying to forget his British life, right? He's purposely trying to cut it out, and he puts more importance on his American wife and on his American child than the kid right before him, this boy. And you can see this kid's anger isn't just because his father is gone, because his father's not paying attention to him. It's because his kid can realize his father not only doesn't really have any involvement and investment into his life, but his father is doing the most he can to forget everything about this kid and everything about where he came from, to the point where this kid's left on the wayside, and he starts pointing these things out to his dad, like, why are you talking like an American? You're not an American. Why are you placing these importance? And like, the way that this kid's mind is degrading, because he's figuring out his dad really doesn't care about him, and he's figuring out an even deeper way than just like the average kid being like, oh, my parents got divorced, my dad is paying attention to his new family. But he's seeing deeper, where his dad is completely denying the place that he came from and the place where his son lives, and that he wants to run away to America with his new American family, even for things that aren't really that important, things that he really doesn't have to be there for, right? So like, he has another kid, so he has to leave his son behind, because he has to go and pay attention to this new kid, because the kid is like a little sick because she's a baby, right? And I'm like, the mom can take care of that. Like, if this woman really cared about this man's other son, she would be like, okay, look, our daughter is sick, but I can take her to the hospital. We'll be okay. You spend another week trying to comfort your son or whatever. We'll be fine. But that's not how it goes. He takes every chance he can, saying, oh no, my wife needs me, this and that, to run away from his son. He doesn't want to take responsibility for his son. He doesn't want to take responsibility for his life in Britain and anything that had to do with it. And I feel like it should have delved more deeper into that. Like, you could see it, right? If like you've experienced these things, if you like, you're familiar with like immigrating to a new place and like accent loss, if you're familiar with parents not caring, if you're familiar with these things, you're going to see how this really affects this kid and how he is seeing it, because it's a lot more than just the at face value, the father's not caring about the son as much, but this kid has real reasons and real things that are proving and showing him that his father doesn't care as much about him as he does about his American life, and is avidly trying to show the kid as well that he does it. So it was just like small little pockets of things like that where I just felt like it could have gone more into it, explored more into this boy's mind, explored more into how this boy was making connections, instead of just like showing it at face value for you to put together in the text. Because if you haven't experienced these things, you're less likely to put these things together. You're less likely to see all these little hints of what's going on, all these little hints of this kid's deeper feelings, all these little hints of why he's seeing the world this way, of why he's reacting this way. And you might just put it up to like everyone else and be like, well, his mom's ill, so he's twisting things, he's just really angry, like it's all held up and he's lashing out wherever he can. And it's a lot more than that, because yes, his mom's ill, but a lot of his other problems don't really have to do with his mom being ill per se and why he's mad, but a lot of what the other people are doing. So I hope that this makes some sense. I hope that you're kind of understanding where I'm going. I don't think Patrick Ness went deep enough with this character, with this boy, and fully explaining his feelings and fully showing the impact he was having. I feel like it was just at face surface, just like showing you the top layer of the emotions, but not really delving deep, so that a reader who is not familiar with these sort of things, who hasn't really experienced these sort of things to this extent, could try to empathize and understand what was going on to the fullest extent. For those who have experienced these things, for those who have felt similar, for those who are very close to situations similar to this in any sense of the word, they will probably read this book and see the deeper meaning of what this kid is going through, and understand that a lot of the things this kid is being angry about, the things that he's frustrated with, have to do a lot more than just his mom being sick, but just his problems with a lot of other people and with the world around him, and the very real situations. It's not just built out of some anger that he has, but the way that he's angry has a lot more to do with his mother being sick, right? It stems from a lot more than him just having emotions pushed down, which I think is culminated in the end when it's trying to show you that the reason why this kid is angry is because everyone just keeps telling him, what could we do to you? Your mom's sick. Like, why would we punish you? Why would we say anything to you? Your mom's sick already, right? And like, that's why I just really think that it was all of these problems had more to do with than just his mom, because when he was having problems with everything else, he wanted people to realize he's more than his mother's sickness. I think that was the real story, is he is more than his mother's sickness. But all of a sudden the world started seeing him as this kid with this mother, and every time he tried to reach out to someone, they would just see him as a kid with a sick mother, or they wouldn't care about him, and he would slowly try to pick up on those things. And I just don't think that the book that Patrick Ness wrote conveys all of those feelings, unless you are the type of reader who has experienced these things or are well versed in these things, to pick up on those little hints and to put these things together, to see this kid and be like, I know exactly what you're going through, instead of as the outsider, like many of the people in the book, and be like, well, I feel bad for you, I'm sorry that you're going through this, I really hope you get better. And I don't think a reader needs to come to this book in that sense. I just feel like it's a betrayal to the character if the reader comes in and all they do is feel sorry for the kid, if all they do is like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, you'll be forgiven because like your mom is ill, it's understandable you're going through all of these things, all of these emotions because your mom's ill. And I feel like if a reader comes to it like that, simply because they've never experienced these things, simply because it was not fully explained why this kid is acting the way he is, outside of the fact that his mother is ill, that's kind of like a disrespect to the kid himself, because the whole book is about him being angry that people treat him like that, that people feel bad for him because his mom's ill. Because at the end of this day, this book is not about a kid who's dealing with his mother's illness. Not really. It's about a kid who's dealing with everyone else who wants to assume something about him because he has a mother who's ill. And I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of explaining it. It's like I'm at one of those points where I just really want to express my ideas, but I'm not confident that the way that I'm going to convey them will perfectly summarize the way I feel, and fully explain why I feel the way I do. So I hope that you kind of glean from what I'm talking about why I didn't like this book. I will admit that maybe my feelings are biased because I'm very sensitive to these topics, because I've been in similar, not the same situations, but in similar situations, and I've known what it feels like, and I've known like the emotions that go behind it, and that it's more than just, oh, I'm mad because my mother is ill and therefore I will lash out where I can. A lot of it has to do a lot more than just that being the instigator to all of these problems, but the people themselves. And I also had read a book that month that did a whole better job just delving into the psyche of a person who is going through a hard time, and that was We Are the Ants. I've talked about it often, praising it, and just it delved deeper into the psyche of a person who is going through a lot of problems, fully explaining it so that even if you're not a person who went through these situations, you could understand and empathize with them and slowly come to connect with them fully and see their point of view fully. Where in this book, I just don't think it went far enough that it's easy for a reader who hasn't experienced these things, who isn't familiar with these feelings, who isn't familiar with these actions, who would misjudge it and would see it in the wrong light, in which this kid is obviously talking about despising. So I just felt like having a book that created readers who would treat this kid the same way as all the people who he's frustrated with is just kind of like, it's senseless if you're trying to talk about a book in which the way that people treat others who have like some sort of family who's ill, and how horrible that is on you, and how that gets to you, and then you create those very same people when they read this book. You're not doing a good job of pointing out why it's frustrating to deal with those people when you're creating those very same people. I guess. Like, I hope you followed along. I just overall, A Monster Calls could have been better. It had a lot of potential. It had a lot to it. I think it should have been a longer book. Not that much longer. I'm not asking for like a 500-page book studying in depth this kid's emotion, but I think it should have been longer. I think it should have focused more on this kid's emotions when it came to how he was dealing with things and why he was angry, outside of just the simple fact his mother's ill, but why he personally was affected. Outside of that, why he had these feelings and why he chose to get angry about these certain things, because it wasn't just him lashing out for the sake of lashing out because he had an issue in his life. I did, however, like the stories that the monster told. I thought they were magnificent. I definitely like seeing them. I like seeing the good and the bad in the gray zone within the monster story, of how not everything is as clear as it seems, how good people can do bad things, how bad people can do good things, how not everything is as simple and black and white as we want it to be. So I really, really did like those parts. I always like those fairy tale-ish style storytelling stories within stories. I think they're marvelous. So I like the monster stories. I like the progression of the book. I like how the story went. I like the whole overall tale, but I feel like it's just an overall tale when it could have dove deeper, where it could have gotten more, where it could have reached more people and really showed the connections, where it wouldn't suffer from a reader who just never experienced these things. And I feel like a book should be able to communicate thoughts and ideas to people who haven't experienced those things so that they can experience them through a book properly. So if you have these ideas, these thoughts you want to convey, be sure that you convey them the best way that you can so that when the reader comes to them, they will see it within the same light, because everyone reads differently. I understand not everyone's going to take away the same thing because experiences are different, the way we grow up, like the people that we're around are different. But I feel like when you're writing, especially on an emotional topic where you're trying to show something, you want to make it as easy to understand as possible, that people can culminate, that it doesn't matter the experiences, it doesn't matter their background, that they can culminate and understand this one basic idea really, really well, so that when their different ideas, when their different opinions come in, they don't diverge too far from the original intent. And I feel like this had two paths one could take, one for those who have experienced similar and one for those who haven't, and you get within the same bubble, but you're not exactly seeing the same story. Yes, I think that's where I'm going to end this before I just go on into more confusing lingo that may or may not make sense. So if you've read A Monster Call, I would really like to know, did you really, really love it? Do you just think, oh no, it's fine the way it is, I think it was good, I don't think readers are going to misunderstand? Or were you more like me where you wanted more from the book and you had a few issues? Or did you not read it at all and I just sounded like a crazy woman? I would like to know. If you like what you're seeing here, you want to continue to see more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, Internet.